Let's get straight to the chart chatter today. We're joined by Nick Twidale from FP Markets via Skype in Sydney. Nick, good to go and see you there. Before we go and get to the charts specifically, I wanted to go and ask you about the US dollar index. Now, last night we got some really hot inflation numbers. The core inflation, the hottest inside the early 90s annualized, and that headline also since 1982. But the US dollar index couldn't rally; it got sold off. Does that suggest there's a little bit of vulnerability creeping in?
Yeah, I think so, and I think what we're seeing is that sort of there's a huge deviation, I suppose, in how the dollar trades at the moment to how it traditionally does, and I think it's taken on much more of a safe haven aspect. And because we're seeing such strong numbers, as you said, since 1982. I mean, they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal numbers that are coming through. So really, it's more of a safe haven trade that the dollar gets hit now on strong US data, which is contrary to sort of everything we're used to doing on strong US numbers. But that's how the market's set up. And I think, certainly from what we saw last night and from the market's reaction, that we've probably got further downside coming for the dollar. Everything else remaining equal, and we continue to see this growth and the world economy coming out of the latest COVID pandemic.
Nick, let's get to those charts. One thing that caught my eye this morning, the Aussie dollar is trading at fresh multi-month highs today against the greenback. Take us to the hourly chart and see how it's set up.
Yeah, so I think the Aussie's been sort of fairly range bound, and it really has been retreating, I suppose, over the last medium term. But we've had a really nice bounce since we came off of those sort of sub 70 levels, and it's come back really nicely. And I think last night was probably the best move since we've had in a session since October. It does say to me that, and we'll probably get more and more strength in the Aussie if we are seeing a greater global reaction. Obviously, it's the commodity currency that most traders will go to. It's got good liquidity, and most traders will look to something like the Aussie if they really want to get back on a growing global recovery. So good to see it back up, and good to see it. I mean, we're back up to sort of 73 cents at the moment. As you can see from the chart, I don't see too much resistance until we hit around 74. And I think the 200-day moving average on the longer term daily chart comes in around about those levels as well. So I think there is a bit more scope for the Aussie to appreciate, certainly against the greenback, and probably against some of the other majors on the crosses as well.
Let's go and have a quick look at that daily chart on the Aussie and see the longer term picture for it. As you can see, that 200-day moving average you're referring to there.
Yeah, so that's that, and as you can see, it probably gives us a little bit of a better idea of how the Aussie's been trading, sort of in the COVID world. We have had that move off, and we were seeing like some sharp moves down in stock markets, but I think there was earlier in the I suppose a month or so ago, we were really getting quite concerned about the latest Omicron variant of COVID. We seem to be coming out of that in terms of data, and probably Australia is a little bit lagging behind, and the currency's probably been lagging behind to a certain extent. But now that we're seeing these good strong numbers, and obviously it's led by the US, and that charge is being led by that US economy, then I think the Aussie's got more room to gain. And like I said, looking at that chart, we're probably looking at those levels around about 74.25, and then we'll probably make a fresh call on where the Aussie goes from there.
Yeah, certainly looks like a test is on the cards, given the momentum the Aussie's carrying at the moment. Another currency pair that's got some pretty good momentum is cable. It's up and about as well, much like the Aussie. Let's go and have a look at the hourly chart there.
Yeah, it doesn't stop, does it, cable? And I mean, that's had a fantastic bounce off of those 132 levels. We saw, and you can see from that chart, but there were a few sort of bottoms around about that 132, and like that's a huge bounce back up. 5 big figures. Obviously, there's a little bit of political angst over in the UK, as there always is, but doesn't seem to affect sterling, certainly against the dollar, and it's really going great guns. I think that break was crucial through that sort of 136 level, and it really does open us up really for a move back, probably to the key cycle level around about 140. If we get back up there, it takes us up probably closer to that 142 level. All things remaining equal, I suppose the real danger for all these major currencies as well is if we do see a sharp turnaround in one data, and two maybe the COVID pandemic that we've still got relevant, but it's really not affecting data too much. So once data starts to change, that could stop us. But for the moment, I think looking at the last two currencies we've got, cable and Aussie are probably heading for higher levels.
Yeah, maybe the switch that we're seeing as well from the Federal Reserve becoming quite hawkish might embolden the BOE as well. Of course, that surprise rate hike coming through last month as well. That is the cable on the daily charts as well, so you can see that break above. So we're looking at about 1.4. Is that next level of resistance?
Yeah, I think so. I think that 140 level is going to be fairly key. And the same again when you're trading this and when you're trading the Aussie. Once you hit those levels, I think you reassess the fundamentals and you see what's going on. That 140 will be crucial, and I suppose. Obviously, we're looking at what's going on in the US and what we're hearing from the Fed. But as you said, Bank of England, it's pretty hawkish as well, and that could really start to see sterling outstrip some of its rivals in the majors. So I think one of the things I'll be looking at is cable. Cable, so obviously US against the US, the sterling against the US, but also sterling on those crosses. And if it does look like the UK's recovery will outstrip something like the euro, I think there's probably some greater moves in something like euro sterling as well.
Speaking of the euro, let's have a look at that on the daily charts because, hallelujah, it's finally broken out of that very narrow range it was stuck in for a while. Where to next?
It's been a really tough trade, hasn't it, euro? It's been really range bound and it's been quite horrible. I probably didn't pick the best chart for that one. Probably should have come into the Owlies. But once again, it really does open us up for a bit of a move to the top side. And like I said, that dynamic in the market with stronger US numbers coming out and more hawkish Fed, and we're still seeing the dollar get hit. I think, certainly in the single currency, it opens up for that sort of 117 level, and then that top side resistance comes in around 120. So I suppose when we're looking at sterling, we're looking at the key site level 140, and then in euro back up to 120. So it's going to be an interesting next few months to see where we really go. And if these fundamentals stay the same, then I think we could see some currency strength against the dollar, certainly across the majors and in the exotics as well.
Let's go and have a look at the CAD because it's got quite similar characteristics to the Aussie dollar, but of course a lot more aligned with what goes on with the crude price. Energy prices have been up and about as well. So how is it looking?
Yeah, I threw CAD in as well because I think that's one there's probably a decision to be made. And if you look at that chart, that's a pretty decent support trend line. It's got a lot of hits on the bottom, and it goes all the way back to sort of Q2 2021. We're sitting around 125. I think we need oil to really break to probably approach sort of fresh highs again, and it's not far off the highs that we saw in Q4 2021 as well. So if we break through sort of that $85 a barrel level in WTI, then I think we'll see dollar CAD hit to the downside, and that opens up the way back to 120. And then I think the world's your oyster for CAD. Certainly we've still got a bit of a hawkish Bank of Canada coming through. The Canadian economy seems to be coming out of the pandemic stronger than others as well. So I think CAD's a favourite both against the dollar and again on the crosses. So looking at some of those commodity currencies really could start to get into some real decent action and to get some good moves on them coming forward.
Yeah, agree with you. Given particularly what's going on in China at the moment, clearly starting to loosen the purse strings when it comes to credit growth. So we'll keep a close eye on those cyclical currencies such as the Aussie and the CAD. Nick, we'll have to go and leave it there, but great chat. Looking forward to doing it next time.
Thanks, mate. Have a great one.